Welcome to the stress-free coding tutorial dedicated to Angular Part 2. If you haven't seen my previous video in which I explain how to install the development environment, take a look. I'm stoked, so let's start right away because this part will be full of interesting content. In fact, I tell you about component, modules, templates, data binding, directive services, dependency injection, injector. Hey, stop. Okay. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Let's take this one step at a time. Angular is not a programming language. Angular is not a library or function, but a real open source software platform available for Windows, for Linux, and macOS. To create a single page application or web application that have a single page as user interface in which all of the required content is loaded through background code to a server that exposes APIs developed with other languages. Single-page applications differ from traditional web apps in which a new page is loaded with each user request for new content, which means a greater amount of data to be sent to a client and a longer waiting time. Even with the speed of a current internet connection, we are now talking about a few seconds or even milliseconds. We think about a single-page application like Google Maps, Gmail or Facebook, to give some example. As traditional web apps, they would be less usable and would lose a lot of their appeal. Angular provides the developer with a series of libraries. The core library contains the basic function of a framework, the material library is dedicated to the graphic aspect, and plus other optional libraries. Inside the framework, I took this image from Angular docs initially. It may seem complex, but for now, you are interested in knowing what are elements that make up an Angular application as you develop code. It will become clearer. Components are the bricks that make up an Angular application. A component can be composed of 2 or 3 files, an HTML file where you define the page layout, a TypeScript file where the component's logic resides, and the optional CSS file that contains the styles rule. The life cycle of a component begins when the page is loaded and continues until the user interact ends, when be requested another page, and consequently another component will be loaded. Templates are used to structure HTML pages. Templates are a mix of HTML code and markup long Angular. Think of markup as a sort of placeholder that when the HTML page is rendered are replaced with information. This process is called data binding. The passage of data between component and template is called data binding. The component injects the data into the template. If a user changes one of the data, the change is automatically intercepted by component which updates its variables. Or if a user performs an action on the page, for example, he selects an item from a list box or ticks a checkbox that triggers an event such as a request for new information. In the background, the component will make a call to the server and return data that will be automatically proposed on the page. Angular apps are modular. Each app has at least one module. Complex apps can contain multiple modules with their own domain. The directives are used by framework to interpret the particular instruction contained in the component. For now, you just need to know that the directives allow you to manipulate HTML document object model. By services, we mean all those classes that the developer writes with a well-defined purpose to which to delegate particular operation to be shared within the project. The term dependency injection refers not to an element but to a programming pattern. By programming pattern, we mean a solution that is applied to solve a recurring problem. Dependency injection is not the only pattern. When is dependency injection used in Angular? When you need to use an instance of a service within a component, you will pass it as a dependency already format. That said, it seems complicated, but don't worry because Angular provides an overlay called injector that will do the dirty work for you. How to use an injector will we see along the way. Let's start by creating the project scaffolder. Open the command prompt. I use Windows 11, but apart from this step, the rest is independent of our operating system. With the command change directory, move to the folder in which you want to create the project. Now type this command ng new followed by the name you want to give a project. In this tutorial I want to make an e-commerce mini app, so I will name it My E-commerce. Now it is finished, we can take a look at the project as an editor. I will use Visual Studio Code. I have prepared a video dedicated to this tool. The link will appear in the tab. From File menu, open folder and select the project directory. Answer yes, I trust the authors. If you use Windows, you may find this alternative useful. Go to the root directory. Right-click open with code. However, you will do Visual Studio Code next time. It will load the last open project. In the Explorer, you can see the file system or workspace. Let's make an overview. Node modules contain the packages installed by default. If you install new packages or third-party libraries, you will find them here. SRC contains your application. App, here will add classes, services, and component. Assets will contain static assets such as images to be shared in the project. And finally, environment is the directory where the project setups are to be saved. Setup has created two environment files, one for production and one for development environment. Go back to the SRC directory. Here you will see a list of files. File icon is the icon that appears in the browser. Index.html, the header tag and the body tag in which the HTML code of the app contents will be inserted from time to time. Main TypeScript is a TypeScript file that contains the entry point of the app. If you develop with object-oriented programming languages, it is the equivalent to the main method. Polyfill contains compiler settings to maintain compatibility of TypeScript code converted to JavaScript with older version of browsers. Editor config. In this file you can set a series of rules for the work environment shared between the developers of a team. Gitignore contains all references to files that should not be saved in the Git repository. AngularJSON contains a number of project configurations. Package lock.json and package.json are two files used by NPM to keep track of project references with packages. README. Here you can write the description of a project and the documentation for the end user. tsconfig app.json contains the compiler configuration. tsconfig.json contains the configuration of a JavaScript language. Test TypeScript and karma config.js. You will need to configure the test environment. That's all. I invite you to like and subscribe to the channel for next stress-free coding video. Bye!